Welcome back. We start a news bulletin from Pakistan, which has conducted a successful training launch of its surface-to-surface ballistic missile Ghaznavi. In a statement, the military said the missile is capable of delivering multiple types of warheads up to a range of 290 kilometers. It said the launch was part of field training exercise of Army Strategic Forces Command to rehearse operational readiness. Pakistan's President, Prime Minister, Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee and Services Chiefs have congratulated the nation on the achievement. The launch was witnessed by Lieutenant General Nadeem Zaki Manj along with officers of Army's Strategic Forces. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Imran Khan says Pakistan, with all its resources and landscape, is a goldmine of opportunities ready to be explored and excel. Speaking at the breakfast meet in Davis, Khan said Pakistan has more potential than Switzerland and Malaysia to earn from tourism. The Prime Minister said the world has only started to realize the beauty of Pakistan, from breathtaking mountain ranges to serenading beaches. He said the country is home to one of the world's most ancient civilizations and houses pivotal holy places of more than 4 religions. Khan said his government has mapped Pakistan's problems and is in the process of presenting the roadmap for their solution. Now from the Middle East. Iran has welcomed talks with its Gulf neighbors amid heightened tensions in the Middle East. In a tweet, Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said Tehran is ready to participate in any dialogue that is in the interest of the region. Zarif said Tehran affirms its readiness to participate in any complementary work. The statement comes a day after Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan said Riyadh is open to talks with Tehran. He said Tehran will have to show commitment towards ending regional tensions.
We have always been open to having good relations with Iran, but that's really up to Iran. They have to decide to stop using violence and terrorism to further their regional aims. Once they make that decision, I think we can have very good relations with Iran.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Central Command says more troops have flown out of Iraq to Germany for medical evaluations following Iran's 8th January missile attack. In a statement, the Central Command said the troops are in addition to the 11 sent earlier for treatment. It said further injuries may be identified in the future. After Tehran's attack on the U.S. troops in Iraq, President Donald Trump had said not a single American soldier was harmed in the raid. Yesterday in Davis, Trump told reporters he did not consider the brain injuries suffered by U.S. troops to be serious. Moving on, the U.S. has called on Lebanon's newly formed government to ensure the safety of protesters rallying against the political elite. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has urged the government, army, and security services not to use brute force against citizens. In a statement, Pompeo said Washington will engage and provide support, but only to a government that is committed to reform. Meanwhile, demonstrations turned violent just a day after the new government was formed to steer the country out of its financial crisis. Some protesters breached a small barricade near the parliament and set on fire a tent for security forces. They responded by tear gas and water cannons. Moving on to Palestine now, where President Mahmoud Abbas says he wants to hold elections in all Palestinian territories, including Jerusalem. This statement comes after Abbas met his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in the West Bank city of Ramallah. It is Macron's first visit to Palestine since he assumed office in 2017. Palestine state media says both leaders discussed the progress in peace process and regional affairs. It said Abbas highlighted France's role in saving the political process from the stalemate caused by Israel's intransigence. Macron reaffirmed his support for the two-state solution. He said Paris will continue to support the Palestinians in building their institutions and economy. Israel is hosting over 45 world leaders in Jerusalem today to mark 75 years since the liberation of Auschwitz. Over 1 million people were killed by Nazis in the death camp during World War II. President of Russia and France and Britain's Prince Charles will address the sombre event at the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial Center. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi are among the attendees of Israel's biggest international gathering. Guarded by 10,000 policemen, the leaders will warn against the resurgence of anti-Semitism in their speeches. Muslim countries and leaders are not attending the event, as Israel is hosting the event in disputed capital Jerusalem. On Monday, the ceremonies will move to the site of the Auschwitz camp in Poland. China has quarantined Wuhan, the city of 11 million people, to contain the spread of the deadly new coronavirus. The government has told locals not to leave the city without special circumstances. Singapore Airlines budget carrier Scoot and Taiwan's China Airlines have suspended flights to the city. More in this report.
An outbreak of the fatal new coronavirus that began in Wuhan has killed 17 and infected nearly 600 people globally. All public transport in and out of the Chinese city of Wuhan, including trains, buses, and ferries, have been stopped. Washington has set up a monitoring and quarantine operation after the virus was detected in a patient.
In terms of monitoring the contacts, all the close contacts will be part of what we call active monitoring. That means that a public health worker will call the person daily to do a symptom check for them, see if they have a fever, cough, any respiratory issues.
Mexico was also investigating a potential case. A first case reportedly emerged in Hong Kong, with the patient arriving via high-speed railway from the mainland. The World Health Organization will decide today whether to declare a global emergency.
Today, there was an excellent discussion during committee meeting, but it was also clear that to proceed, we need more information. For that reason, I have decided to ask the emergency committee to meet again tomorrow to continue their discussion. And the chair, Dr. San, has agreed with that request.
There is no vaccine for the new virus, which China says is mutating. Symptoms include fever, cough, and difficulty in breathing.
India has fallen 10 places to record 13-year low on Democracy Index in the year 2019. The Economist has ranked India to 51st position among 167 countries. The intelligence unit's report said the downgrade comes amid India's abrogation of Article 370 on Kashmir and Citizenship Amendment Act. It said the country was awarded a score of 6.9 on 10 due to democratic regression in the erosion of civil liberty. The index ranks countries on electoral process, pluralism, government functioning, and civil liberties. Now in Britain, the Parliament has given its final approval to Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Brexit deal with the EU. The legislation is expected to gain royal assent within days after the Lords allowed the legislation to clear its final hurdle. The Lords could have sought to reinstate the changes but opted not to, allowing the legislation to clear its final hurdle. The bill will become law when it receives royal assent from Queen Elizabeth. The UK is set to leave the EU on the 31st of January. In the United States, Democrats have accused President Donald Trump at his impeachment trial of seeking to cheat to ensure re-election in November. They have 24 hours over the next 3 days to make their case that Trump should be removed from the office. U.S. President Donald Trump is accused of abuse of power and obstructing the Senate. The opening arguments will be followed by White House lawyers who will defend the Republican president. U.S. House Representative Adam Schiff has accused President Trump of a cover-up. Schiff said the president believes himself above the law. He added that trial should allow them to present witnesses. Meanwhile, President Trump said the impeachment hearing is a hoax. 3 U.S. firefighters have been killed after an aircraft crashed while battling a new outbreak of bushfires in Australia. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian said the plane crashed in Snowy Mountains, 2 hours south of the capital, Canberra. Commissioner Shane Fitzsimmons said the aircraft owner, Coulson Aviation, has grounded its large air tanker fleet following the incident. Fitzsimmons said it was unclear what had caused the plane to crash. The fire service said the crew had been contracted to Australia to help fight the bushfires this season. Authorities said Canberra Airport has also suspended all its flights because of approaching flames. Since September, the country has been battling a wave of fires that have killed 32 people and impacted over 1 billion animals. In the US, one person has been killed and 5 others wounded in a shooting in downtown Seattle. Police say multiple people were involved in the gunfire. Police said they believe the incident was started by an altercation outside a restaurant. Police said they have closed a subway station while cordoning off the area as an investigation is underway. Medics say the wounded have sustained life-threatening injuries.
We found a total of 6 patients on scene. One of those patients was pronounced dead here at the scene, and the other 5 patients, we consider them red patients, which means that they're critical, so they need to get to the hospital. They were all transported by Seattle Fire units as well as AMR units.
We have a lot more coming up right after this break, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Napoleon's imperial canoe has been unveiled in the French city of Brest after spending 16 months in a protective chest. She was being held at the National Maritime Museum in Paris before returning to her home port. This report will tell you more.
On 30th April 1810, the boat, with Napoleon and the young Empress Marie-Louise on board, made a remarkable entry into Antwerp in Belgium. For several days, the canoe had ensured the travel of the emperor in the port city. At the time of the fall of the empire in 1814, Louis XVIII had the boat transferred to Brest. To protect the canoe from bombardment, it was then transferred to Paris in 1945.
Ce canot est parti en 1943.
It was promised that the canoe would return to Brest, its home port where it had been since the end of the First Empire. It was sent to the Palais des Chaillot in Paris to be protected. Its entire history is here. Napoleon I, Napoleon III, a number of events in the 20th century. I feel like saying that this canoe belongs to France, but the people of Brest are so attached to it.
Un certain nombre d'événements au début du XXe siècle.
The jewel of French heritage has been released from its formwork after having remained locked in a rigid box for 6 months. The canoe remains on its transport chassis and will be partially disassembled over the next few days.
Un chantier de 5 semaines.
Today begins a 5-week construction site which will see the unveiling of the canoe, its movement to the final space where it will be presented. It will be brought close to the so-called cradle, which is the final structure on which it will be presented to the public, and on February 5th, it will actually be placed on that cradle.
Et le 5 février, il sera véritablement posé sur...
The restoration work will end in May, just before the Maritime Festivals, which will be held from July 10th to 16th in Brest.
In California Newport Beach, photographers have captured some amazing footage of gray whales migrating down towards the warm lagoons in Mexico. Watch this short report on a pod of whales spotted out in the sea. A hovering drone above Newport Beach captured a welcoming sight of 6 gray whales on their annual migration towards warm waters of Mexico. About 27,000 gray whales make the long 12,000-mile trek each year from their feeding grounds in the Arctic to their calving grounds in Baja California. It is the longest migration of any mammal on Earth. They usually make this journey from November to April. In the United States, the gaming company 100 Thieves has opened the world's first esports facility in Los Angeles. By doing so, the company aims to train top esport players around the world for the growing industry of video games. Watch more in this report.
2, 1.
Video games are an already burgeoning industry. Its 2 offshoots, esports and content creation, are becoming booming industries also. Gaming organization 100 Thieves, one of the top 10 most valuable esports brands in the world, dedicated the 15,000 square foot gaming compound in LA to its 4 big esports teams where they can train regularly.
There's literally no other space like this in the world. There are other esports teams that are building just training facilities for practice, but this is the first one that really combines practice and entertainment and content creation, as well as everything that we're doing on the lifestyle and apparel side.
A lot of esports teams train at home. Although this can be lucrative, there are downsides that 100 Thieves compound hopes to remedy.
One of the hardest things about building your brand in content creation is because when you're working from home, it's lonely, you never leave the house, you don't have coworkers except for people you talk to online. And so being able to leave the house and come to a facility with, employees and other people that do what you're doing, I feel like it's really good for your mental health. So I think it's great.
With hopes to break down the virtual wall between esports stars and their fans, the company owned by CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, pledges to arrange monthly meetings between fans and their idols.
Tesla has overtaken Volkswagen as the world's second most valuable car maker. This comes after a dramatic rise in share price pushed its market value to more than $100 billion. Tesla share price has more than doubled since October 2019, when the firm reported a rare quarterly profit. The auto manufacturing giant stock rose 4%, making its valuation second only to Toyota. The milestone sets the stage for Chief Elon Musk to collect $2.6 billion in pay tied to hitting that target. Toyota tops the table with stock market valuation of over $230 billion. Stock markets across Europe are trading lower as fears mount over US President Trump's remarks threatening to impose tariffs on EU products. Investors are treading cautiously as major stocks plunge. Frankfurt's DAX is trading nearly 0.5% lower after construction giant Hochschild shares plunge over 9%. London's FTSE 100 has lost nearly 0.5% after Parliament approved the Brexit bill. CAC 40 in Paris is trading fractionally higher after Renault shares fell over 4% as Citigroup downgraded the stock to sell. In Asia, Shanghai Composite led the losses to close over 2.5% lower amid major sell-off. Nikkei 225 lost nearly 1% after Japan's official data recorded a decline in exports in 2019. Meanwhile, international benchmark Brent crude oil price has lost over 1% after global economic activity slows down amid coronavirus. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.